Hello and welcome. We're exploring a radical idea. What if stress isn't the enemy, but a messenger? Joining me in conversation is Michael B. Lee, author of Turn Stress Into Bliss and founder of Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy. With 49 years of teaching experience, Michael has trained over 2,000 practitioners worldwide in transforming stress through embodied awareness. Welcome, Michael. So glad you could join us.
Thank you, Nancy. Great to be with you.
Your book presents a radical premise that stress isn't something to simply to cope with or eliminate, but rather a valuable signal to harness. This goes against most stress management advice. What led you to this groundbreaking perspective?
Well, actually, it was through my own experience and through my own practice many years ago of mind-body practices in the areas of yoga, meditation, mindfulness. And it became clear to me that there's a very different paradigm in terms of our inner being compared to our outer world. In our outer world, we're used to addressing a problem by tackling it head on and fixing it, right? And that works in many cases. That's a great strategy for a lot of things that we face in life. But when it comes to something like stress, that really is a signal coming from your body that's saying, hey, pay attention to me. There's something going on here that's a little bit out of balance. Because at a deeper level, our body really knows the truth. It knows what's right for us. And it will do its best. Just think about all the times that you've healed when you've been sick. Your body, you don't take that head on. You can't force your body to heal, but your body will
Exactly.
heal. Your body will heal all by itself, yeah. And all you've got to do is set up the right conditions. Well, it's very similar with stress. You've got to, first of all, be able to listen, but you do have to take some corrective action. But that needs to come from a knowing of what's right. And that knowing of what's right won't come from your thinking mind. It's an inside job, so to speak.
Is there any amount of stress that's okay for us?
Oh yeah, we have stress every day. Yeah, and that's manageable. That's we can go through days. We can even have a lot of work to do, get very tired at the end of the day, have a big day, and there's been some stressful situations. But we bounce back. Our sleep restores us. We come back the next day and we're okay. And when we're young, we can do that really much more easily than we can perhaps when we get older in life. But the trick is that we have to be in relationship with our body, and we have to take the cues that our body gives us and use them as signals to say, hey, something needs attention here. Now, if I'm feeling stressed every day and I'm doing a job that really creates that amount of stress and it's debilitating and it's causing me to have sleepless nights, it's affecting my relationships, da da da, all the things that happen, then it's time to stop and say, whoa, let me pay attention to this. And the way we do that is by listening, by tuning into our body, feeling the stress, really getting to know it, like what's happening in our body. And then, as we do that more and embrace that, that gives it the space to indicate to us what we might need to be taking care of in our lives.
The title Turn Stress Into Bliss. Can you walk us through what this transformation actually looks like in someone's daily life?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's preparing the ground in order to be able to navigate life in what I would call attunement. We need to have our mind body in a state where it can tune in. It can tune into the realities of life as they are, not the way our mind tells us they are or should be. So, my first step in working with someone is to help them create relationship with their body. We call it befriending your body. And then once you befriend your body, you can use your body as a tool for awareness, and you become more aware. But you become aware at a more all-encompassing level, not just what you want to be aware of. Like in our thinking mind, in our day-to-day mind, we shut a lot of things out. We don't let the awareness in because
Right.
if we do, it'll mean we'll have to stop what we're doing. We don't want to do that. You know,
Mhm.
So we shut the awareness out. So here, once you befriend your body's going to get a little louder in talking to you, and it's going to let you know things. You're going to feel the stress in your body. You're going to feel the tension in your shoulders. You're going to feel your breath shorten when it shortens when you're trying to take something on head on. And when you get those signs, you're going to say, okay, there's a sign where I need to step back and listen. May need to go outside and breathe for 5 minutes. May need to maybe just move my body around a little bit and feel it, and tune in, and then say, okay, what needs to happen here? How do I want to be with this? And that's really the key. Is it's not a question of fixing anything. It's how do we be with it? Because the reality is there are stresses out there. I mean, there's more stress in our world now than probably there ever has been.
And we can't avoid it. It's
You
just a
can't
natural
avoid it.
part.
It's
Yeah.
there. It's there.
Yeah.
So
It's a
the
natural
question,
part of life.
the question is, how do we be present to that in a way that doesn't take us down?
Your 8 week program reportedly produces a 55% reduction in stress related symptoms. What do you believe is the key mechanism that makes this approach so effective where traditional stress management often falls short?
Yeah, it's probably because it's about embodied awareness. I think a lot of stress management programs try to tackle it head on from a cognitive place. We don't sort of deny that the cognition is important. We do have to, make plans and think about things, but that's not the primary vehicle. The primary vehicle with the work that I do is the body, and using the body as a tool for awareness, listening from within, honoring our felt sense rather than what our mind's telling us. Um, and so, the mind will often argue about what's harming us and excuse it or make an excuse for it, whereas the body always tells the truth, and it's always present. So, listening to our body, we get very wise understanding of what's really happening in our life, and we can hopefully through the other practices that we engage relax into a way of being that lets us make different choices in our life.
How long, like the connection between the cognitive and the body will go through a lot, correct? Before the mind actually goes, okay, this is enough. Or
Yes,
is
it
it the
will.
other way
Yeah, oh
around?
yeah. The body will put up with a lot of punishment. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And until it gets to a breaking point, and we don't want to get to that place if we can avoid it. Like there's no need to have a breakdown. But a lot of people, these days are getting to that stage. It just gets too much, and they just, you know, they fold. They have to have a rapid exit from whatever they're doing,
Mhm.
and that can be very disruptive to your life. It's way better if you can get a handle on it earlier. And the thing is, each one of us is different, so we're not all meant to be doing the same thing every day. Like what's right for you in your world and what's right for me in mine might be very different. You might be built to go out there and tackle a lot of stress, whereas I might be more introspective, and I might be a writer, for example, and I like space and seclusion in order to let my best work come.
Right.
So it's just a different setup, and so we've got to know that too. Like what's really true for us as human beings. What's our role in this wonderful thing called life? Yeah.
For our listeners who are dealing with chronic stress right now, what is one practice from your 8 week program that could begin today? Something simple, but genuinely transformative.
Yeah, I love the 20-second breath break. It's just,
Mm.
and you can do this anywhere. You can do it on a train. You can, even in your busy office, or you can just, excuse yourself and go outside for 20 seconds, or even take a bathroom break. And basically, it's just taking 3 deep breaths, not forcing it. Let the deepening be, be mindful but not forced. So it's a deep inhalation. Just take a deep breath in, and then just let the breath fall out. And if you do 3 of those, it takes about 20 seconds. And then just ask yourself, okay, what's happening now?
Mhm.
And when you ask that question, what's happening now, you're probably going to get a little different response than you did before you started it, before the 20 seconds earlier. Right?
You emphasize that not doing becomes as important as doing in the healing process. In a productivity obsessed culture, how do you help people embrace this counterintuitive principle? Because sometimes not doing is hard.
That's a great question. Yeah, we do live in a productivity obsessed culture, I know, and it rewards habits that often are misaligned with our true nature, right, as human beings. So, we as we sit here and talk about it from a distance, we kind of know there's wisdom here that, sometimes not doing is the best thing to best course of action, but to do it in the thick of things is very difficult, right? Um, so we need to explore options to doing all the time. Yeah. Like back in the day, even not that long ago, the farmer in the field, right, worked very hard, but at the same time, was tuned in to everything that was going on around them, and wasn't sort of obsessed with just mental activity. So we do need to kind of take a break from that at times. We need to not do in order to let what is true for us come to the surface, because it's a little bit like there's so much material written on the hard drive of our mind that
Yes.
there's really no space for anything else to come to the surface. So we have to create that space, and often that comes from not doing, not knowing even. Like, uh, we live in a world that knows everything. Well, it really doesn't. Just look out into the sky one night and tell me you know everything. I don't think so.
Exactly.
So there's a lot that we don't know, and let's be in that place of not knowing, not doing, and let our human beingness come to the surface. Yeah.
Is not doing um, just as important as perhaps being present in the moment? Is there a connection there?
There is, yeah. Not doing allows us to be present, because when we're doing, we're usually referencing the doing from past or future. Like we're either trying to make something happen into the future and obsessed with that, or we're trying to stop something happening like it happened in the past, and we're really working hard at that, right? Being present is just being here now. And to be here now, the easiest way to do that is to just simply sit and take a breath and be here now without anything being done. And that brings you to that state of presence. Now, that state of presence can still re-emerge at various other times, and that's really what we're trying to do in turning stress into bliss, is having that sense of presence on call. Like we can choose to be present. There was a study done back, I think, in 2007, and they did put MRI imaging and found that the key to relaxation and managing stress was to be able to switch into that state of being present at will. Most of us need training to do that. We need to learn how to be present, because right from time we were in school,
Mhm.
we've been very much other than present. We spend about 90, I think it's something like 98% of our waking hours not really being present to ourselves, right?
That's
Even when
so
you're
sad, isn't
yeah,
it?
it is. Yeah, even when you're brushing your teeth, are you really here or are you somewhere else?
Mhm. You were one of the earliest proponents of the mind body connection, well before neuroscience validated that what you were teaching. What kept you grounded in this work during times when it might have been dismissed as alternative or unscientific?
Oh, that's so true. Yeah, back in the day, we were very much on the fringe and regarded as kind of woo-woo stuff, like really,
Mhm.
uh, but I think the thing that really worked for me was in the early days, first of all, was my own experience. I couldn't deny that. I had to trust that. I'd spent a year living in an ashram doing a self-study into the power of Eastern practices, mindfulness and yoga meditation, to actually change our life in some way. And felt that it really did change mine. I definitely changed. I changed from being, very concerned about what I did in the world and whether I was being successful or not, more to doing what really fulfilled me in how I live my life.
Mhm.
So I went from like an external kind of sense of what was important to a more internalized sense of what was important, and that was a big breakthrough for me back then in my late 30s, and that pretty much steered my life in a different direction. And so I knew that, and I couldn't deny that, and I felt that, and I'd experienced that. So that alone was evidence to say, keep going. You're onto something here, regardless of the criticisms or the skeptics or whatever. The other thing was that the people that I worked with and the people that came to me as students, people after a while said, we want to learn this Phoenix Rising method. You know, what is it? How do we bring that to other people? So I started a training program, and very quickly grew, and very quickly, there was quite a strong group of people who were saying, yeah, this really works. We didn't know how it worked or why it worked. Neuroscience told us that later on. But back then in the late 1980s, early 90s, we basically were working on blind faith, but everybody who seemed to come to the work really appreciated it and really noticed a significant impact in their life. So
And
that was it.
eventually the rest of the world caught up.
And then the rest of the world got up. Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's absolutely right. Yes.
With 49 years of teaching experience spanning behavioral sciences, organizational change, and yoga therapy, how has your understanding of what it means to truly teach someone evolved over nearly 5 decades?
Yeah, right. So my job is that we often think of as a teacher as someone who puts knowledge into people. You know, we give people
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And I define it quite differently. My job as a teacher is to know my students and to set up experiences for them that will help them learn, and to ask the kinds of questions that will take them to a deeper place of awareness, particularly embodied awareness. So I'd say my greatest, skill or gift that I bring to the whole educational process is guiding experiences for people that allow them to have insight into the wisdom that they already have. So there's nothing I really have to put in, nothing I have to fix. Like, we're all human beings, and in our human beingness, we're imperfect. There's no perfect human beings, but that's perfect. That's how it's meant to be. Just look out in nature. You look into a cluster of trees. There's no perfect tree. There's a lot of different trees, and it's the same with us human beings. We're perfect in our imperfection, and if we can come from that starting place, I think in education, it's really a great place. And the job of the educator then is to help us explore what really will return us to our true nature. Because I think all of us have a true nature. We just get a little bit lost along the way as we sort of grow up, and we get all these concepts about who we should be, ought to be, could be, or would be if, and
Yeah.
really doing all that is fine, but you miss the point of who am I really, and what's my natural calling? Am I like the flowers in the garden? They all have their own scent. Well, what's the scent that I have to give to the world?
And
And
that
how
can
do
be challenging because sometimes we're like, well, what do others think I should be, right? We have
yes,
to we
yes,
have to be really focused on what our calling is, and you have to be in tune with your body to do that.
absolutely. That's where attunement is so important. Yeah, in order to live your true nature, you really have to take the time to be present, not just in mental activity, but in an embodied awareness state. Yeah.
In the mid 80s, you made a dramatic life shift. Tell us more about that, your time in the ashram.
Yeah, I was at a job in a college. I actually was a tenured professor in a college, which was a pretty cool place to be in the, mid 30s. And in many respects, you could say I had it made. I had a wonderful job. I was teaching in an area of work that I really liked. My field was organizational change, how people change and behave in organizations, and was pretty successful doing that work as a consultant and as an academic, and had a sabbatical. And the sabbatical came up at a time when I was just starting to dabble into Eastern practices. I'd been in the military during Vietnam, and I'd didn't want to go to the gym and work out. I wanted to do something else, so I tried yoga, and I bought a little book that to learn yoga in 21 days or something. I think it was called. I can't remember, but it really opened my eyes. And then one day, I was practicing, and my daughter said, "I like when you do that stuff, Dad." I said, "Why is that?" She
Hmm.
said, "Well, when you do that stuff, you're not so grumpy." And she was so right. She was really
Isn't
right.
that an amazing? How old was she?
She was about 8 or 9. Yeah, yeah. And so I thought, wow, how about that? So I was driven to find out more, and found out that with my sabbatical I could do a self study, and so decided to do a self study by going and living in an ashram for a year, which is what I did. And as a result of that, Phoenix Rising was born. I didn't go back to my academic post, and have basically lived my life's work night and day ever since.
Yes. That name, Phoenix Rising, evokes powerful imagery of transformation rising from ashes. Can you share a moment from your own practice or a client's experience that perfectly embodies this concept of burning away what binds us?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, one was, I remember when my children were kind of school age, and we had a pretty active household in the morning. There was a lot of busyness, where people were getting lunches and trying to get out the door, get to work, and whatever. And there was there's quite a bit of tension in the air. And I noticed this because of my practice. I'd kind of got a sense of, I can feel this tension, and I didn't like it in my own house. I didn't want it to be that way. So one morning in meditation, I just got this sense of I could be the change. If I changed, things around me would change. And
Hmm.
so I made a commitment. I thought, well, I'm going to walk into the kitchen and I'm going to be the way I want the energy to be in the room, which was basically, um, you know, acknowledging other people, being cheery, greeting, friendly, and also helpful. So I made it a practice to do that every day. I'd walk in and I'd maybe give someone a hug, and I'd maybe get out of the way. Someone's trying to get into the refrigerator. I'd say, "Oh, let me stand aside so you can get what you want." And well, do you need any help with that? And just let my own breakfast and my own needs kind of like take a back seat. And after probably a week or less, I mean, I noticed there was a little shift, and within a month, I mean, it was just a different scene, and that was a joyful scene. People were enjoying it. It was great to be there, and I felt great, and I thought, wow, that is amazing. That's just one little thing of really, being clear about what the intention is,
Hmm.
being clear about what the vehicle is, and how impactful it can be. And I've seen that ever since. I've actually been observing how, we don't think one person can make much of a change, but you really can. You go into your office environment and just be different for a day and see what happens. It really can make a difference.
That's really powerful, but to get to a position where we can be introspective enough to realize that we can be the change. That's
Yeah,
the challenge, right?
it is. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You've trained now over 2,000 Phoenix Rising practitioners across the globe. What has surprised you most about your work and how it has evolved and spread over the past 4 decades?
Well, that's a great question. I think the simplicity of it. I mean, I think there's a tendency we have to complicate things, and so the more I've engaged the work, the more I've actually appreciated the simplicity of it, and particularly I've also been helped, I think, by the neuroscience. Even though we were doing what we were doing before, and we knew that it worked, the neuroscience has basically shown us in ways that it does. And so I've been able to use that, I guess, to simplify even more. Like we now have like a 6 phase approach to the Phoenix Rising session or class or whatever. And it just begins with simple breath and movement, for example. And then it goes deeper into other aspects of the work. So I think simplification and the fact that it can be made more readily available to more people, and how to do that. That's pretty much where I'm at now in the path is like, how do I just bring this to more people more easily? And yeah, just yeah, wanting to bring that to focus now. Yeah.
With that said, as you look at the current state of mental health, workplace burnout, and collective anxiety in 2025, what gives you hope? And what role do you see embodied practices like those in Turn Stress into Bliss
It
playing in our collective healing? I guess healing is the key.
is, yes, yes. I do have hope. I mean, if you just look at, yeah, there's There's a lot of ugly stuff happening in the world right now for sure, but there's also a lot of good stuff. For example, like back in the 80s, yoga was something that was done in church basements. Now it's on every street corner, right? Meditation was kind of like monks in ashrams, monks in monasteries. Now it's meditation centers and online. I mean, online and everywhere. And then you've got things like Dharma recovery, which is basically the Buddhist version of AA, which is expanded incredibly over the last 5 to 10 years. So you've got hundreds of thousands of people all over the world beginning to embrace these, more mindful practices, meditation, yoga, um, and so on. And I think it has an impact and will have an impact. Whether it will balance all the other stuff or move in a different direction, I don't really know. All I do know is it's worth jumping on board with it, and all I can really do is do what I can do, knowing what I know, and hopefully know that there are many, many other people like that in the world doing the same thing. And I believe there are. And I believe we're finding out ways to connect more, ways to be more skillful in what we do. I mean, I think a lot of people have fears around AI. I think AI can be a useful tool as well as a destructive tool. It just depends on how we use it and who how we go about it. So I see hope, and I see signs of that. I mean, everybody wants peace. We just don't know how to get it. We don't know how to go about it in a way that really is going to work. And for me, it's always, if I really want peace in the world, let me start first of all with peace for myself. Let me find ways to make myself peaceful. Then let me work on my immediate environment. How do I take that to my family, to my home environment, and then my work environment, and then my social environment? And if I can do it on all of those fronts, I'm having a huge impact. And
What's
I
the first step?
put peace for yourself, absolutely
Yeah.
with yourself. Yeah.
But what is the first step to get there? Like,
Oh, to
if,
get to
yeah.
that, be willing to ask yourself the tough questions. How do I want to show up for life? What really matters to me? What really is important? Yeah. And this is a great time of year to do it as we come to the end of the year and start to look at what's ahead for the next year. What really matters? And then if we can answer that question, how do I be present to that? And then engage some practices that really do take us present to that. That's like some of the things that I've described, even just taking a break and breathing, even just pausing for a moment before you eat a meal and giving thanks for the fact that you've got food in front of you. A lot of people haven't. Gratitude is a great practice. So there's lots of little things that we can do to begin to come to peace with ourselves. Yeah.
Where has your work brought you now in your personal practice at this stage of your life?
Well, it's basically continuing with my own transformation, which hasn't ended. I mean, yeah, I've done a lot of work, but I'm still an imperfect human being. And so noticing those areas where I can still make a difference, where I need to look at myself and some of my unskillful ways of going about things in life, and being radically honest with myself around that, and not beating myself up, because that's not going to help. That's just going to delay things. But having compassion for the fact that I am a human being, having a compassion for probably the unskillful things I did in the past, but also having a clear intention of where I want to go going forward. And that is, to continue my own growth, to work on that, but also do it not just to make me good, but to you do that in a way that will help me better serve others. So my clients and students and whoever I'm fortunate enough to connect with in a healing capacity, the work that I've done in myself will help me work with them and be more skillful, more compassionate, more loving, more caring, and more able to help them accept themselves as the wonderful human being they are, and embrace their own growth path. Yeah.
Michael, thank you for this. It's been such a wonderful opportunity to speak with you and a beautiful message.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Nancy. And you've asked some wonderful questions, if I may say so. I really appreciate the depth of the questions. They've really helped me dig down into my work, and I really value that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. What is the best way for listeners to connect with you? Website or email?
Yeah, michaelleeyoga.com is a website, and Michael at and Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy, the letters there are PRYT.com. And you can email me, Michael at PRYT.com.
Where can we find your book? That is the biggest
Ah,
question.
the book, you find it on Amazon, Ingram carries it, Barnes and Noble online, and probably quite a number of other online bookstores. And of course, you could go to your local library and ask them to order a copy for you.
Thank you so much. I've been speaking with author Michael B. Lee. His book, Turn Stress into Bliss, is available now.